Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Rangers Review pre-match briefing with myself and Stevie. Clifford here ahead of Rangers against Hearts in the Scottish Cup semi-final. Stevie's laughing because his head's shining.
Yeah, what was the conversation we just had, Joshua?
We said, you can tell the listeners.
We said, how do we stop this shine from going away? And you said, it doesn't matter, it's going to shine anyway.
Yeah, there you go.
It's just killed
a
me.
bit of insight.
So there we go. This is how we warm up, folks. Not even looking at the team and stuff, just nonsense.
And of course, there is big news. We'll get straight into the team, Stevie, and then we'll talk about the importance of this game for Rangers. They have not won in 3 games, simply a must-win game against Hearts. But let's get straight into what I think people want to talk about, which is the fact that there is no Connor Goldson in the Rangers starting 11 for the first time in a long time. Certainly on the presumption that he's on the bench, Stevie. We've not heard anything about his fitness, so we're presuming this is something about his performance as opposed to a knock. Obviously, get confirmation of that afterwards. But here is how Rangers line up: Jack Butland in goals. The big surprise comes in the defence: James Tavernier, John Souttar, and Leon Balogun, alongside Dujon Sterling, who continues at left back. Souttar and Balogun last played together away at Hibs, I believe in a Scottish Cup game to set up this tie when Goldson was injured right at the start of the year. That centre-back partnership continues in this competition. John Lundstram retains his place in midfield. Mohamed Diomande comes back in, having missed the last 2 games. Todd Cantwell keeps his position at number 10. We think it will be Rabbi Matondo off the left and Abdallah Sima off the right, with Cyril Dessers through the middle. Stevie, let's talk about what everyone wants to talk about. Connor Goldson, we presume he has been dropped. There was some rumours of it in the lead up to this game. We've said repeatedly, I think over the last couple of weeks, he's, for someone who's been so consistent at Rangers, he's probably in the worst form of his Rangers career. That's a big call in a game like this from Clement, isn't it?
It's a massive call. The rumours were that had Balogun not have been sick during the week, Balogun was coming in then as well. So it's a big call, but there comes a point, Joshua, where I think it becomes absolutely necessary to make big changes. Now, I'm not even sure so much if it's his defending, and this is going to sound a wee bit strange, but I've got a feeling it's more to do with his use of the ball, Joshua. The amount of times that Connor Goldson is going long and playing it out of field, playing it too long, it just goes out for goal kicks and stuff like that. And if you'd seen the reaction, now I know people when they attend games don't watch management and stuff like that, but we had an vantage point during the week at Dens where, myself, Shona, Chris and stuff, we were basically watching over the top of the manager, and his reaction every time Goldson got the ball and went long was quite eye-opening. So it was really interesting. Really interesting to see that. I'm not surprised. I think it's been needed. I think we spoke about this a couple of weeks ago, didn't we? So you look at the pros and cons. Like, James Tavernier is not going to get dropped because he brings so much to an attacking vantage point.
Yeah.
But that right hand side has been it's been a massive problem for us, isn't it? Like, Ross County exploited it. Dundee tried to exploit it during the week, and I would no doubt that Hearts would go after it again today. It's also nice as well to see John Souttar retain his place and get an opportunity to play where he is. So listen, I think it's one that the majority of the Rangers fans would have said was necessary, but we're going to find out now. When Connor Goldson historically hasn't been there, Joshua, it's been a big call, and we've maybe struggled a wee bit. So it's a huge opportunity for Leon Balogun and John Souttar just to maybe, because if they play well today and we get a clean sheet and they do well together, then that partnership stays.
Yeah, listen, it's a big call. You can't deny that from Clement. I think it is justified. You're right to point out that Goldson has played so much for a reason, but he's not on a good run of form whatsoever. And perhaps sometimes you do need to make a call like that to allow a player to recover some form at a certain point of the season. But if you think back to the game against Aberdeen or Motherwell, this isn't a one-off game where he's been poor. The conversation about how Rangers use the ball, and we'll get on to the Hearts team and the bench as well, Stevie. That's something that you put to the manager at the pre-match press conference on Friday. Rangers at points under Clement have been direct. I don't think anyone would deny that, and I don't think that's always been a bad thing, because it's allowed them to attack quickly, it's allowed them to attack directly and not always lose the ball in bad areas. We saw the maybe opposite side of that against Dundee, where they were trading off control a lot. There was the times where Goldson was moving into the midfield, as you say, with the ball, and then playing it long on 2 or 3 occasions, especially in that second half. They need to use the ball better today, and presuming that Souttar will play on the right hand side, he's going to be someone who can carry the ball out with a little bit more comfortably, and maybe hopefully we'll see a better version of him, because he's not been without his faults, but he's playing in his natural position now, so no excuses for him today to go and put on a better performance on the ball, which is probably what Rangers need if you look at how they built up in the game against Dundee on Wednesday night.
Yeah, look, there's been a lot said recently about Rangers being a long ball team, but Rangers were never a long ball team under Clement when you look at the run up to Christmas, and then especially the 8, 9, 10 day games that they done and won in a row just after the break. We were never playing like that. This has crept in the last 5, 6 games, where the ability to go back to front far too quickly. And the question to Clement during the week was, or on Friday rather, was you spoke a lot about lateral passing and passing just for the sake of it, Joshua. And what I mean by that is, again, if you were watching closely during the week, going from one side to the other would just be one pass. And what's happening is they're maybe going Suter, Lundstrom, 3 touches, Goldson, Tavernier, when it really could have went Suter to Tavernier 1, and then we go quickly and we're moving. It's all too slow and it's all too turgid. And that has been different to what we've watched under Clement. And I know it's easy at the moment just to say football under Clement's really poor, football under Clement's really bad. It's become bad in the last 5, 6 games. And I think subsequently, the question to him during the week, which he said was a great footballing question and he enjoyed it, I think it had some relevance to it, because this isn't how we play under Clement. It isn't what we've done. And it's become suddenly that slow way we were under Beale. It was called Beale ball. It's crept back in. And I think it's a sign of players under confidence, dropped, and maybe they're doing the safer things instead of doing the quick things and the better things that we can do. So Goldson, I think it's more his on the ball presence, and he also made an interesting comment about the team being too quiet and having no leaders and things like that. So I wonder if it's a combined effort. So that's a big call. But sorry, Joshua, to go on to what you've said about the kind of forward areas in the middle of the team, I think that Silva had to come out of that team as well on the left-hand side. I think he's been extremely poor. Matondo, ironically, Matondo hasn't been that much better, but he's produced those flashes and goals, hasn't he? Those wonderful goals against Hibs and Celtic. So you understand why he's come in, but he needs a better off-the-ball game as well, doesn't he? Is that fair? He needs to be better on the ball and off it, I think, and not just in those moments. So it's a big opportunity for him.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Yeah, no, I think that's... Let me read the Rangers bench and then we'll get into the forward area. To go with McCrory, Goldson, Fabio Silva, Tom Lawrence, Kieran Dowell, Kemar Roof, Borna Barisic, Nico Raskin and Ross McCaws. Lynch should remind everyone tuning in, about 1,500 of you, you can currently subscribe to the website, just £1 for 6 months. You can also win, all subscribers current and new, a signed 94-90 shirt. Ranger shirt signed by Paul Gascoigne and Ali McCoy, none other than those two. If you want to enter into that competition, subscribe by clicking on the link in the description or on the ticker below. Before we got into the bench TV, let's talk about the midfield balance and the attack as you outlined. Dujon Sterling, for me, had to continue at left back. Now, I know people said you needed to bring him into midfield. The reason that I don't think you sacrifice him to put him into midfield is because if you look at the games, and we covered this at the time, the Hibs game in particular and the Ross County game, when Barisic plays in this team, Rangers concede loads of counter-attacks. And the reason they concede loads of counter-attacks is it's not solely his fault or solely his responsibility, but because of how if he's going to be effective in the attack, he has to overlap. He can't move inside the pitch. He's not going to stay deep and kind of play creative passes from those positions. He has to overlap, and that means when the ball turns over, you've had these big gaping holes that you saw against Ross County, and you actually saw against Hibs, but actually Rangers just were unpunished that day for the positions in which they lost the ball. So for me, that's why Sterling has to play in that position. Rangers fullbacks are so fundamental to the way they play to allow the wingers to be high and wide. The midfield, Diomande was always going to come back into the midfield. I think Nico Raskin remains on the periphery, which is another conversation. John Lundstrom, Stevie, is probably someone who needs a big performance. I think it is fair to say he's had a lot of criticism in the last couple of weeks. How do you see that midfield position today, and how important do you think it is for Lundstrom on an individual basis that he has a big performance today?
On John, I think John has got a massive responsibility today, but I'll talk about Diomande first. Diomande will bring the legs and the energy, the ability to get the second ball, the ability to turn on it quite quickly, which we've missed. It's been so slow.
And I think the reason it's been slow is because, sorry to interrupt, but the reason it's been slow is when Diomande is not in that midfield, Rangers don't have someone who is press resistant, who can turn under pressure, and that speeds up your attack naturally. When you don't have that, you probably have to go more direct, to be quick, to go over the midfield, but that's when it becomes one-dimensional.
He's so important to the press as well. It's the stuff that people maybe don't see and realise when he's not there how important he is. He presses and he picks up the second ball. So for me, yeah, it's really important he's back in. John Lundstrom's a bit of a conundrum, because if you had asked me 6 weeks ago, I would have said he was playing terrific and he was absolutely brilliant, but he's hit the buffers like others. And he needs a big performance. He needs to be quicker on the ball, quicker, get it moving. But at the same time, how can he do that when the forward line, the front four up front, haven't produced either? So it's a difficult one. There needs to be a lift from everybody, not just like Lundstrom needs to pick his performance up, as Diamandi needs to pick his up in midfield as well and give us that from midfield. So does Cantwell, so does Matondo, so does Seamus, so does Dessers. It's all about what's in front of him. John Lundstrom can't do everything himself, and he's been overloaded in there without Diamandi next to him. So yes, John Lundstrom absolutely needs a performance. Yes, John Lundstrom needs to be quicker on the ball. Yes, John Lundstrom needs to be better. Absolutely. But the ones in front of him shown for the ball have got a responsibility to help him as well.
I think playing with two wingers should afford Rangers a better balance that they've lacked. They've not started with two wingers since the Hearts win. Oh no, the Kilmarnock win. I don't think since then it's been one of Fabio Silva or another off the left hand side. I think Silva has not had a good few games out wide. He looks like a player who's been playing out of position to me because he's not been really in forward areas. Don't think there's any question that you needed to change something in that position today. You're right, Rabbi Matondo, he's kind of continually showing flashes without showing consistency is how I'd describe it.
Yeah, fair. Yep.
Abdallah Sima off the right-hand side. He's done most of his good work for Rangers off the left, but at the moment Ross McCausland's still working his way back from injury. Means that Sima's going to be on that right-hand side. That's a really important aspect of the game for Rangers today, I think, Stevie, because what they've lacked in a lot of lineups for me is just players who can win their duels. And I don't mean that just from a defensive point of view, but I mean when the game's isolated, who can outplay, who can overpower their opponents, who can go past them, who have the pace to go in behind. And in that starting 11 with Sterling, with Diamandi, with Matondo, with Sima, already ahead of having a Barisic and a Lawrence and a Silva in there, you have three players who have more about their game, I think, in terms of winning duels and in terms of winning the small-sided games that allow Rangers to perhaps go on and dominate the game overall. How do you view? We touched on it quickly, but how do you view the role of Rabbi Matondo and Abdallah Sima today, and Todd Cantwell, who again was in really good form at the start of the year, got injured, came back, probably hasn't quite. Well, no, I'm not going to say. Yeah, he hasn't got back to those levels. How do you see the three picks behind the striker, and we'll obviously get on to Cyril Dessers before we talk about the Hearts team as well.
3 picks behind the striker is probably what I would have went with, to be quite honest with you. Todd Cantwell's not in good form, Joshua, not in good form in the slightest, but is he better than Tom Lawrence? Is he better than Kane Dowell? At this moment in time, I would probably edge him in front of them, but that's not on performance at this moment in time. It's what I think he can bring instead of what he is actually bringing. So Todd Cantwell's got a really big opportunity today to try and do something on a big stage. What I would like to see Cantwell do is drift a wee bit into the space behind the front three a wee bit more. During the week against Dundee, and I've seen this as well, and he's got a tendency to be right up close next to Dessers, and there was a huge space, and Tom Lawrence was playing really deep. So that big space in there meant that the wee number 7 McCowan could pick it up for Dundee all the time, and the amount of times he got space in there to break up our transition was a lot. I'd like to see Cantwell be a wee bit more clever about where he plays and where he tries to affect the game. So I would like to see that for him. He would start in my team. He hasn't really shone like we know he can, but I think he can. I think he's in there on potential of what he can do rather than what he's doing. I think that's fair. Matondo on the left, we spoke about a wee bit more previously. He's had those flashes. He needs to put together a performance of a whole game. I think that's fair. Sima picks himself. Sima deserves to be in there as a goal threat. Can cut inside, can score goals, works hard to get back. He'll need to get back and help Tav as well. So that picks itself before we get to the front man, which is
Cyril Dessers. Yeah, Roof came in midweek and it was a difficult game, I think, to play, and no Rangers player played well. He had a couple of nice turns, but he wasn't that involved. Didn't have much service. I think it's important to
stop aiming long balls at him as well, so it didn't help, did it?
Yeah. I think he. We just get the team sheet there. Anyway, we'll not go back on Wednesday night. I don't think there's too many interesting points.
No, but I'm with you. I don't think Kamar Roof should have played today.
No,
on his performance level. So it is Cyril that comes in because he's the only other one.
Yeah, and we'll see how he does. Let's talk about the Hearts team. It looks like they've gone with a 4-3-3, which I think poses some interesting dilemmas for Rangers. They go Gordon, Kent, Kingsley, Beningame, Grant, Shankland, Atkinson, Devlin, Rowles, Forrest and Vargas. Presume it will be Shankland with Forrest and Vargas either side. That Stephen Naismith was quite bullish in the lead up to this game, and I think understandably so. His team haven't beat Rangers, but they've had a good season, and they'll be confident coming into this game that they can. I can't believe Hearts have never beaten Rangers at Hampden. I didn't realise that until this week. Looks to me, Stevie, like he's trying to target the space in behind Rangers fullbacks where they have been weak. What do you expect as a challenge from Hearts today? We know about the quality of Shankland, Beningame at the base of midfield as a player who can help Hearts play through and keep the ball. They've gone close to getting a result against Rangers this season. They haven't. This is a big game for them, isn't it? What do you expect from them?
I found Stephen Naismith's comments quite interesting, where he talks about that 2-1 game, how they were leading up till 90 minutes. Very interesting comments. He says that they were close there. Yeah, they might have come close there in Clement's, I think maybe second home game, but we also battered them 5-0, and he conveniently left that one out. So, Hearts will come and have a go, which they should have, and it probably suits us, and that's good for them. They're flying and they think they can do well, but if Rangers are paying attention to these things, they should have just pinned that right up the wall and said, right, he clearly thinks it. Because his comments were quite disparaging, Joshua, really. They were quite, he had a wee pop and said, no, I'm not surprised they aren't winning because, there's no winners in that team, is more or less what he said. So if I was Rangers, if I was James Tavernier, John Souttar and the likes of those boys, I'd be just going, right, okay, that's noted for the future. What Hearts do today isn't a concern to me because it's up to Rangers. Rangers go and perform, will win this game, and that's the truth. Whether we're in form is another thing, but if we go and play today, we will win this game. If we turn up like we have done the last couple of weeks, then yeah, Hearts have got a real good chance. And that's probably the truth of it. Hearts are a decent enough side, and they've got players that can do well. Vargas is quite a quick wee guy on the left-hand side. Shankland will score goals, we know that. But in midfield, Devlin and that, they'll try and win that battle, which we need to make sure that we do. But, Rangers play today, we'll go and win this game, and we should be worrying more about what we're doing, how we turn up. And do you know what else, Joshua? I really like it. Seen the last 3 games, Tav 20 seconds into the Old Firm, Ross County nearly scored in the back post in the first minute, Dundee nearly scored in the first minute up at Dundee. It would be really nice today if we could just click on from the very, very start, get onto our game, start moving the ball nice, start moving it a wee bit sharper, get the ball out wide to the players, get Cantwell involved, and then go from there.
Okay, that is your team news reaction live from Hampden. We'll be back at some point after the game. Keep up to date with the Rangers review across our social channels, across the game, instant analysis coming your way, full reaction from the press conference, of course, as well. Until then, thanks for joining us. We'll speak to you later. Bye for now.